Out of Order Gun Rights Podcast, episode 92.
Welcome to the Out of Order Podcast, your window into the firearms community, exploring those shaping the future of our rights and protecting our lifestyle, laws, legal cases, activism, and self-defense in a candid and honest podcast for our brothers and sisters in arms. Here's your host, James Kalita.
Thanks for tuning in to episode 92 of the Out of Order Gun Rights Podcast. Show notes page for today's episode is outoforderjameskalita.com/92. And today's sponsor is Gift for Gun Nuts, giftforgunnuts.com, where you get great gift ideas for the hunting and shooting enthusiast on your holiday shopping list every day from now until Christmas. So head over to giftforgunnuts.com and check it out. Today's guest is Tom Lambert. Tom is the president of Michigan Open Carry, and now here's Tom.
Tom Lambert, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So, Tom, you're the president of Michigan Open Carry. Would you tell us a little about that organization?
Yeah, sure. The name's pretty straightforward, but Michigan Open Carry advocates for openly carried holstered handgun. There's a lot we can say about the mission, but the way to sum it up in the most succinct manner is we like to have people understand that good guys have guns too. By taking gun ownership out of the closet, we dispel a lot of the misconceptions and myths about who we are as gun owners and what we do.
Oh, great. And what's the climate like right now for gun owners in Michigan? Are you guys getting a lot of anti-gun pushback, or
the climate obviously goes back and forth. Generally, it's pretty positive. We're generally a pro-gun state. However, as many other states are experiencing, we are seeing a lot of money dumped into the state on the other side. It's always interesting to see these people say, "Oh, reject the NRA money," and they criticize a politician for getting a $500 donation from the NRA. Yet they completely ignore an anti-gun politician that gets a $1,500 donation from a national group. Generally, we're still doing pretty well. We still have a very strong majority in our legislature. We're still able to advance things, and I see that continuing for the foreseeable future.
Great. And on the subject of open carry, I get a lot of pushback, or I don't get a lot. I read a lot of pushback in the forums about it not being sound tactically. I'm sure you've heard a lot of those criticisms. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, people talk about their tactical advantage for concealed carry. Let me get something. This is a great question. I'm so happy you brought it up. First and foremost, Michigan Open Carry does not advocate for open carry instead of concealed carry. What we say is open carry has benefits and drawbacks. Concealed carry has benefits and drawbacks. If you cannot identify a benefit and a drawback of both, you're not being honest with yourself. What it is, it's up to each individual to decide what's best for them in their specific situation. There's plenty of people that all they do is concealed carry, but they support our organization because they understand what we're going for. At the same time, there's people that all they do is open carry. Either one is fine as long as you are making the decision that's best for you, not me, and certainly not the government. And so, in advocating for open carry, there are a number of reasons why someone might want to do that. Well, people talk about tactical advantage. Okay, well, last time I checked, tactical advantage is more of an offensive thing rather than defensive. When we look at who criminals target, the people that intend bad things, who they target, they don't target somebody with a firearm. Now, it's not going to work in absolutely every single scenario. I don't suggest that somebody openly carries a handgun down the streets of Flint at 2 a.m., but I don't think your openly carried handgun is your biggest issue there. On the opposite side of things, concealed carry, while great, one of the things that lacks in the big picture is it's more than about tactical advantage. It's also about your political aspects. It's great that there are so many people armed and protecting themselves all throughout society. But when you're out of sight, you're out of mind. That's a plus, but that's also a negative. People need to understand that we exist in society. We are everywhere. We are good people, and society is safer because of us, not more dangerous because of us. And if they don't see it, then they never think of it.
And you mentioned, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast, was to sort of change the image, because the media kind of throws this negative stereotype of gun owners out there. When you open carry, I imagine you have a lot more random or conversations with random people. How's that been the case, and how have those gone?
Yeah, well, it happens a lot less than you might think. When I started openly carrying, I thought, gee, everybody's going to look at me, everybody's going to notice it, I'm going to receive nothing but problems, and it has been the exact opposite. In the years and years that I've been openly carrying, I think outside of a city commission meeting in Grand Rapids, which is very liberal and anti-gun, I don't know that I've ever had anyone come up and actually have a negative encounter with me. It's very rare that anyone sees it and talks to me about it, and when they do, it's usually very pleasant. Hey, I see you have that gun there. Can you do that here in this place? Yeah, absolutely. I can absolutely carry here, and this is how the law works. Oh, interesting. You have your concealed pistol license. I've been thinking about that. How do I get one? And a lot of times it starts conversations where it kind of pushes people over that edge of, oh, I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and, oh, hey, there's somebody there that I can go talk to, and I can see, how do I do this, get some more information about this. It is 99 to 1 pleasant to negative. And part of that is, we say those who carry openly, what they need to do is they need to be an ambassador for gun rights. And so when you do it, don't be a jerk. Don't go yell at people. We are most certainly not here to teach people how to make YouTube videos. That is absolutely not what we do. Success to us is nothing happening. And so when you do that, you show people, again, you're a good person, you're a good member of society, and people learn that their friends, their neighbors, their relatives, these people that they already know and already know that are good people, hey, you know what? They're a gun owner. And there's really not an issue there.
And I guess a fear that I would have about doing this, and I find a lot of times things I'm afraid about, I have no good reason to fear them, but I'd be afraid that people would call the police, and I'd be, spending a few hours out of every day, standing on the corner with police officers explaining why I'm open carrying. Has that ever happened to you? Or do you hear about it?
It has never happened to me. And obviously the answer and how this is going to work is going to vary depending on what part of the country you're in. But even in Michigan, it was more common about 10 years ago when this whole thing of open carry really started becoming big and police didn't know how to handle it. We've had a ton of success here in Michigan where it's very rare that we ever have a problem today. And in my opinion, part of the reason why we don't have problems today is because of the proactive stance we've taken. When we've pushed this, we've had a mission of education. It's a mission of educating both sides of the equation. We want to make sure law enforcement understand what they're doing and understand what the law is and understand they have an ally in us that are here to help them if they have any questions. We've helped a lot of law enforcement understand how things work, and I have a lot of friends in law enforcement that I'm always happy to help. At the same time, we want to make sure that the public is educated. Make sure you guys understand the laws. Make sure you understand how to do things lawfully, and make sure you understand how to not be a jerk in certain situations where perhaps the officer doesn't understand what they're doing. A lot of people want to jump to, oh, if somebody messes up, I'm going to sue them. And to an extent, I get that, especially if you have an adversarial law enforcement agency. But if we can avoid the litigation and yet have that education happen at the same time, that's the best scenario for us. And we've been able to achieve that far more often than not.
That's great to hear. And so, and you mentioned this being big and really, I guess, an outgoing effort. How have you spread the word? How have you managed to reach so many people?
The number one way we tell people that they can do something other than write a check to their favorite pro-gun organization or organizations is just open carry in your everyday life. You don't have to do it all the time. Just give it a try. I promise you it's not going to be the big thing that you had in your head. The thing that I used to have in my head before I understood what reality really is, that's the number one thing you can do. Beyond that, work with your organizations, get involved with your organizations, volunteer for particular organizations. I can tell you as the president of a nonprofit group, we are always starved for supporters that are willing to step up and actually do something.
And so I was reading that this started in 2009. Did something particular happen to inspire you to start this?
I didn't particularly start the group. I am the current president of the group, but I did not start the group. The group started because there was a bunch of people, and the story goes, they sat around at a table and they looked at the laws and went, I think this is lawful. We should try this. And people said, no, don't do that, you'll get arrested, all these things will happen. And there was some friction in the beginning. Like I said, there were some law enforcement agencies that just didn't understand what they were doing, they didn't respond well. But these guys started doing it, and then eventually they formed an organization called Michigan Open Carry to actually have an official organization to handle this. A lot of times when a new organization pops up, it's because just as with any market that you can think of, if there's a sector of the market that isn't being served, well, that's how you get new entries into the market. And that's why Michigan Open Carry popped up, because none of the gun organizations that were in the state were specifically addressing the issue of open carry. So this new organization pops up, starts working in this area, and nearly 10 years later, it's almost a non-issue now. And again, we just credit that as to our success and where we've gotten. We're starting to look at other things now. Of a lot of the things we work on now promote concealed carry even more than open carry. But in that vein, I want to make one more thing clear. I see open carry as a tool in the toolbox. It's just one of many tools. And we need to not leave any tools lying around in the toolbox, or not leave anything on the table, if you will. And when we work through open carry and through Michigan Open Carry, my goal and the organization's goal is to further the entire community for gun rights. Through open carry, I want to promote collecting. I want to promote target shooting. I want to promote education. I want to promote concealed carry. I want to promote open carry. I want to promote hunting. I want everything to grow through our ambassadorship, not just open carry.
And are there laws in Michigan right now that you guys are working on getting changed?
The laws in Michigan are very complex. Like I said, Michigan is generally a pro-gun state, but if you really start digging into the laws, you realize Michigan's not nearly as friendly as it should be. So we've pushed to get a lot of things changed. For example, a couple of years ago, we got the definition of brandishing added to our laws. Brandishing has been unlawful in Michigan since 1990 or so, but they never defined what brandishing is. So they said, hey, this thing's illegal. And everybody said, well, what is that? I don't know. The legislature didn't say. So early on, we had some problems with law enforcement agencies charging open carriers with brandishing. And usually we're able to get those taken care of fairly quickly. Sometimes it would take a little while longer, which sometimes is expensive. So we went to the legislature and we said, here's the definition of brandishing. What we did is the definition specifically points to the intent of the person, whether or not you intend to induce fear in somebody else. Obviously, when I have a whole openly carried holstered handgun, I don't intend to cause fear in anybody. And so that makes it very clear that I'm not brandishing. We got that pushed through the state legislature. One of the bills had, out of 146 members of the legislature, I think one had 15 no votes and the other bill had 2 no votes. So it was very, very supported throughout the legislature, and the governor signed it. We finally got that definition of brandishing added in. And while it seems insignificant, it made it very clear that open carry was indeed lawful in Michigan because there was nothing there to prevent it. Other things we're looking at are, we have some people call them PFZs, or pistol-free zones. But it's technically a misnomer. Due to the way our complex laws work in Michigan, if you have a concealed pistol license, there is a list of places where you cannot carry a concealed pistol. But notice I said concealed. The law does not apply to openly carried pistols. And that list mirrors another similar, but not identical, because identical would be too easy. Another similar list says you cannot possess a firearm in this list. However, that second list does not apply to anyone with a concealed pistol license. And so when those two laws work in conjunction with each other, nothing prohibits a concealed pistol license holder from openly carrying a pistol in those locations. And so there are a number of different reasons why someone might open carry. Again, we talked about the political. There might be the personal reasons. One of them is this reason. It might be your only lawful way of carrying in a particular place. And I understand if somebody, for whatever reason, says, you know what, open carry is just not for me. I understand the people that do it, it's just not for me. Okay, you know what, that's your decision. I can entirely respect that. How about this place, though, where open carry is your only lawful decision? Now your choice is between not carrying at all and carrying openly. Does that change your opinion? A lot of those people go, okay, yeah, if it's my only lawful choice, then that's what I'm going to do. And more and more people are willing to do that because we've shown that everywhere else open carry is not a big deal. In fact, even in these areas, it's not a big deal as well. And we're using that exemption for open carry to create such a huge exemption that it swallows the rule. The more, how do I phrase this? We're trying to get rid of that list of places. Open carry and concealed carriers alike that's one of the number one things we're targeting. And the way I try and explain it to people is they're able to hold that over our heads based on the value we assign to it. The more we allow that list to control us, the more value that list has. And therefore, the exact opposite is true. The less we allow it to restrict our ability to carry, the less value that list has. Therefore, the easier it should be for us to get rid of. And so the people that want to get rid of that list need to open carry in those places in Michigan.
Oh, that is really an example of how these gun control laws kind of get out of hand and confusing. Yeah.
A lot of times when people write gun control laws, I'm sure I'm speaking to the choir here, they're not writing them to necessarily promote safety. They're not writing them to be logical. They're writing them to be a tool to be used against us. And a lot of times when they try and prescribe this certain behaviors and say, you can't do this, 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 or that, they're not thinking of the other things. Because sometimes they go, oh, well, we don't have to worry about that because they're not going to do that. Well, they're not going to openly carry in a school. Okay, well, guess what? You didn't write a law that says we can't, and now that you're leaving this as our only lawful option, that's exactly what we're going to do. And then they come screaming and say, hey, wait, you can't do that. You say, yes, we can, because you didn't stop us. And now all of a sudden, guess who's back at the bargaining table talking about, well, we'll give you this if you give us that. And while I'm not necessarily saying we're willing to compromise here on things, being at the bargaining table talking is a lot better than not being at the bargaining table at all.
Agreed. Yeah, and as someone who grew up in New Jersey and knowing how bold they can be once they have the power, it's very important to be at the table.
A certain element of this requires having a legislature that you can rely on. If you know that a legislature isn't suddenly going to take something away from you because you do it, that gives you some leeway to play with the gray areas. Michigan Open Carry is at the forefront of challenging our pistol registration here in the state. We found numerous exemptions, and we've gotten Attorney General opinions to help confirm some of those. For over 90 years, people have thought that you need to have your pistol registered in order to lawfully possess it. And lately we've been saying, no, you don't. You do not have to have your pistol registered in order to lawfully possess it. And that's a whole other long story in itself, but we're effectively pushing the boundaries here and trying to get people to say, read the laws, because the complexity doesn't always work against you. So if you have someone smart and willing to read it, and like we're doing, you can start finding the gray areas that work in your favor. And then as long as you have a legislature that's not going to take it away from you, you can start using those gray areas for your own advantage.
Wow. Excellent. Well, Tom, I always ask my guests if there are any books they recommend that all gun owners should read, either about firearms or laws or history? Any come to mind?
Not really. Personally, I'm going to law school at the moment, so I don't have time to read for fun. But what gun owners should do is read the laws in their state. That might sound trivial. It might sound, well, yeah, duh, of course, I've already done that. But what I mean is, don't go read the summaries. Don't go read what other people have said. Go read the laws yourself and read what the words say, not what you think they say. So kind of throw out everything you know and go back and read your laws, because there's a lot of times the laws don't say what people think they say. And that's this is just an absolutely huge issue in Michigan, and I don't know necessarily how things got this bad, where just over the past 5 years, we've gotten more done without changing a single letter of the law than we have actually changing the law. And it's all because our community, and the law enforcement community as well, just didn't understand what our laws actually said. And so by stepping up and saying, no, this is what it says, and you have to follow the law as much as we do, we've been able to get a lot accomplished.
And you mentioned going to law school. Is it your intention to study law for the purpose of firearms law, or?
Yeah, I've figured out I do a pretty good job in this area and a few other areas related to it. So I've made it work out. So law school works for me and my family, and give it a try and move into the area. And with a license to practice law, I'm more likely to be a much more effective person than without.
Wow, amazing. And so I've talked to a few lawyers who have told me that law school is almost universally anti-gun. Has that been your experience so far, or have you gotten far enough to know yet? Or
I have not found that to be the case at my particular law school, and I'll tell you, when I went in, I was really, really concerned that based on my conservative political leanings, that I would be targeted, that either from other students or other professors. And I can't speak to what it is at every law school across the nation. Only the one that I'm at, in the limited amount of time that I've been there, I haven't seen politics come up really at all from the students or the professors, where I've seen it where somebody's getting attacked or even supported necessarily because their political views are one way or the other. It's been a great relief at my particular law school to not have it be an issue.
Oh, wow.
But
that's
just mine. I can't speak to all of them.
Well, that's good to hear. Well, where can people find Michigan Open Carry? How can they help? Stuff like that. Sure.
The usual places where we have a website, miopencarry.org, or you just Google Michigan Open Carry. We're also on Facebook. We have a Facebook page and a Facebook group. You just search for Michigan Open Carry. One of the big things we do with our Facebook group is just answer questions related to Michigan law. Again, there's just so much to know about Michigan gun law because it's just so very, very complex that regardless of whether or not someone's a member of the organization, we always want people to come in and just ask your questions, because the more knowledgeable people are, the better they can make decisions for themselves. And that kind of harks back to, look, here's the truth about open carry. Make your own decisions. You decide what's right for yourself. And the same thing goes to the law. If you decide that you want to really push the boundaries, then we'll help you figure out where those boundaries are. But we want you to know the truth, not what people say about the law. We want you to know what it actually means so that you can make your own decision. So again, miopencarry.org online, or Facebook page, Facebook group. I think we're on Twitter as well. So, the usual places.
Great. Well, Tom, I thank you so much for being on the show. Any parting words for our listeners?
I understand a lot of people have misgivings about open carry. And a lot of that stems from seeing videos on YouTube of, frankly, people that are jerks. To me, it's not what you carry, it's not how you carry, and it's not where you carry. It's how you act and conduct yourself as the most important thing. And so in describing a particular situation, let me even back up there. You would think our community, more than any other community, would understand not not taking the attributes of one particular outcome or one particular individual and ascribing them to the entire community. You'd think we would understand how that doesn't work. Yet when it comes to certain things, open carry being one of them, our community is very guilty of doing that. Look at the entire area, not just one individual that's an outlier, and make your judgments based on that.
Well, Tom, I thank you very much for being on the show, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to episode 92 of the Out of Order Gun Price Podcast. Show notes page for today's episode, outoforderjameskalita.com/92. And please remember to check out our sponsor, giftforgunnuts.com. Gift for Gun Nuts, where you get great gift ideas for all the hunting and shooting enthusiasts on your holiday shopping list. Giftforgunnuts.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.